general assessment of what was a match that had pretty much everything?
In the end, 3 points. That's what matters. Right now, at this point for us too, with the results that we've had lately and some misfortune in a couple of the games, 3 points I think are the ultimate for both teams on the pitch. And I think that's why you saw a little bit of an emotional game at some point, which maybe there could have been a little bit more football played. But 3 points is the most important thing for us, as we see the last couple of weeks. And I think I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. Every 2 weeks we talk about one thing and another thing, and I say in 2 weeks a lot of things change. And that's how it's been. It's a great time to be a neutral and a fan in the CPL to see what's going on. For us, we're happy we've gotten these 3, and it gets us just a little bit closer to where we need to be.
Yeah, I was embarrassed to admit that I almost forgot how good Daniel Kurtzen was. But there was a nice reminder today for him to be able to step in after that layoff in a match like this that was so emotionally charged. Just your thoughts on his performance?
Yeah, I think I've said from the first year he's the best central defender this league has seen. There's no question, and this is no knock to anybody else. But this is a guy that can play football. This is a guy who's physical. This is a guy who wins tackles. In the first half, I think he's won 4 or 5 challenges in the middle of the field, and he hasn't been on the pitch playing a game since early December, late November. So it just speaks to his quality. It's always tough bringing a player back in from injury. You want to say, how do I get this guy minutes? And do you throw Daniel Kurtzen in the 60th minute when everything is going on? Or is the best way to get him to start, get him into the game? And I thought, that was the right thing to do today, and we're happy with his performance. And he's obviously gonna help us as we move forward.
Just to actually follow up on Danny being back, can you speak just to the domino effect of him being back, getting Alex back into midfield, and how much that helps your team as well?
Yeah, I think the one thing is you go back to the last few games and we've been missing a little bit of rhythm, and it may be an overconfidence in the guys and what was going on before. We could also be seeing the tail end of a team that's tired from playing 40 games. A lot of these guys last year not really having an off season and having a season start on January 15th. Because that's a real effect you have to look at. So whenever you can get a player like Danny in, he also changes a little bit the dimension of the way you're able to play. Get some rest. Ali Kojabrapur has put in minutes this year in a very tactical role where he's asked to do a lot on the ball. And, I thought he hasn't been his best in the last couple of games, but he's been excellent for us. So it was a way just to move things around, freshen things up, and I thought for the most part it worked well for us.
And just also tactically, Dom Samuel, playing his 100th game for this club, he's at left back. What did you make of his different role there?
Yeah, so we wanted to move things around. We know Cavalry likes to use the outsides a little bit. Ash was holding on to knock. The same thing with Kwesi Poku. And the one thing we've learned about Dom, he's a man for special missions. And when you need him to do something, he does a great job at that. And I think he's done it again as well today, putting his body on the line a lot of times. Physically, but that's who he is. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get a fight out of him. And to be honest, in the first half, we got some great runs up that left side from him, and that gave us a little bit of some movement on the wide area because, for a physical guy and a big guy, he's quite quick, and not many people see that.
Good.
Bobby, congratulations for these 3 points that you already obtained today. We were talking about during your United game that those following weeks are going to be a big difference, and then we saw that we got just 1 point over 12. What was the difference from those 4 games and this match? What did you improve it or talking about with the team about these following weeks and especially this game?
I think at some point the players realize their backs against the wall, and the games before this, maybe you think you've got another one, you've got another game in front of you. Okay, we're going to do it. This one was the type of game where you have to win. So maybe it was a little bit of that, and that's the important thing. And what I said in the beginning, it's the 3 points was the ultimate thing that we needed today to get us moving, and it moves us to another important match next week in Pacific. It's every week. I think for every team, it's their most important match of the season, and I think that's going to make things very interesting again for these next weeks ahead.
Thank you.
Coach, congrats on the win. I can see from the body language from coming in, there's a bit of almost a mixed emotion about this result. And I just want to touch on the red cards, all 3 of them, not just Kyle's, but all 3 of them. You were pretty close to 2 of them, especially the ones on this side. What did you see?
Yeah, the one thing I want to say about the cards is, to be honest, I think there's situations in the first half that if they're dealt with, we don't have what's happened in the second half. And you know, sometimes, and I don't know what it is, but Ramos kicked the ball after the play and he gets a yellow card. But there's players being punched in the face, kicked in the face, and there's no cards. So sometimes I think that allows certain things to happen in the game, and it happens within the weeks of all the games, and that leads to these situations in the second half, right? And so I'd rather go at those points. I think it's sometimes better to set the tempo right from the beginning, and maybe that allows a little bit more football to be played, more entertaining football for the big crowd that's come here and the crowd that's watching on One Soccer.
Yeah. And I asked Coach Wheeldon this as well, and the first half, it seemed especially for most of the first half, was a pretty calm game. That thing, it was maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes, things started to heat up just a bit. Going into the locker room halftime, you're up a goal, but you're noticing that it's starting to get a little intense. What do you say to the guys?
It's unfortunate to have the 2 red cards, but we left it all out there, and at the end of the day, we didn't get the result we wanted, so we just got to keep moving forward.
As a player, what are these kinds of games against Forge like? They seem like they're obviously very heated and physical, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's when 2 good teams play, it's a lot of tension and a lot of good football that is being played, so it's just a high-quality game, 2 good teams going at it. Just each team is going for the win. No one's really sitting back and just going for it. So it's usually an exciting game. There's a lot in it usually. So today just showed that.
Yeah, Ali, just obviously being on the pitch, and seeing. Can you just give us an idea as to what happened on the pitch for all 3 red cards, but particularly towards the Cavalry ones? What did you see?
Honestly, I don't know. We're gonna have to review it. To be honest, I didn't really see much. I feel like it was very questionable, the calls. I feel like there wasn't really too much in it. I had a word with a couple of the guys on the team. It just didn't seem like it was a red card, but at the same time, I don't know, it has to be reviewed. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. We were very disappointed that it turned out that way. But like at the end of the day, it is what it is. What can we really do? We got to just move forward and focus on what's next.
Yeah, and into the game itself, I mean, you definitely were an outstanding performance throughout the whole season. What do you feel made a difference in the result? Red cards aside, what do you think was the major difference point in Forge getting a 2-1 win today?
Sorry?
What was the difference overall between the 2 teams? Why Forge ended up getting 3 points in your perspective?
I feel like a lot of it has to do with the officiating, to be honest. I hate blaming it on officiating. It's not really what I like to do. But I feel like a lot of it has to do with that. It's kind of difficult when you're up a man and then you're down a man and it's even. There's a lot going on. The momentum switching. There's always players going down. I just feel like they got the best of the referees at the end of the day. But we could have been better. In the beginning of the game, if we finished our opportunities. It's a game of inches. So we just had to just keep fighting and do our best. And sometimes it just doesn't go your way, really. So today was just a case of that.
Yeah, very briefly, is there anything that the coach told you in the locker room at halftime? You were down together down a goal, but it also started to get just a little bit chippy towards halftime. It wasn't obviously too extended the second half, but it started to develop a little bit. Is there anything that Coach Wheeldon said at halftime to you guys in the locker room?
More so our tactics, so we just focused on our game, and we had belief and confidence within the squad, and we're just speaking about our tactics and our game and what we could do better and how we can go out and win the game. Nothing focused on any of the fights and any of that chippiness and all the fights and all that. We just focused on our game and we just went out and we got the goal back and we just kept on fighting, and unfortunately a lot of turn of events, the referee giving out the red cards and all of that, so it was just unfortunate at the end of the day.
Thanks, Alan. Great performance again.